Have you ever felt that out of nowhere, life has thrown you a curveball, times when both fear and doubts have paralyzed you and you can't get out of your seat? I believe that these obstacles are certainly common as they are part of life, but what matters is how we get through them, because life's obstacles don't get any smaller, but we can get stronger. That's why I'm going to show you 5 secrets of the Stoics for building unshakable confidence, which will make you stronger, so that you'll be able to deal with any problem that comes your way. We know that life is a journey of good times and bad, where we face countless challenges and problems. But how can we improve in the face of challenges? How can we overcome them? Well, for that I'll quote Epictetus, "You are what you pay attention to." So that's why I want you to pay attention to what the Stoics have to say and show you how their valuable wisdom will help you deal with, face and overcome any challenge that comes your way, especially in today's world where people base their attitudes on their emotions and not on reason. And knowing how to use reason to make decisions is what differentiates those who achieve success in life from those who do not. You have control over your mind, not outside events. Marcus Aurelius. In this sentence, Marcus Aurelius wants to show us the importance of focusing on ourselves, on our actions, thoughts, attitudes, virtues and desires. Since we have no control over what is outside of us, it should not be our focus. Mental strength involves persisting in the face of adversity, staying focused despite distractions, and maintaining resilience in the face of obstacles. As he said, the obstacle is the way. Stoic philosophy reinforces the resilience we must have in the face of adversity, recovering from setbacks, and not letting ourselves be led into taking unwise actions in the face of pressure. But in order to reach this level of self-control and calm, we must first mature. And this maturity comes from internalizing our thoughts and finding out why they arise. And this introspection helps us to take a broader view, finding other ways of looking at the situation and improving our perspective on the events themselves. Our emotional reactions are determined by our own judgments and perceptions. Every time you encounter an obstacle that makes you feel afraid or anxious, it's time to internalize the feeling and start self-reflecting, asking yourself why you're feeling that way in that situation. In this way, we can change our view of events and have a clearer judgment, which can reduce these negative feelings. Epictetus said, "It is not an event and a feeling, but rather an event, a judgment, and then a feeling. And it is at that very moment that we can build or destroy our confidence. And to build it, no matter how hard we're hit in battle, we can still get up and move on. The bird that flies with the wind goes farther than the bird that flies against it." This metaphor by Marcus Aurelius suggests the importance of being flexible and resilient in the face of adversity. The metaphor of going with the wind shows the resilience and adaptation that are crucial for the bird to survive longer and live in harmony with nature in difficult times. It also reflects on controlling the ego, not putting oneself on a pedestal and trying to change things as they really are, because they just are. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus were the greatest philosophers of Stoicism. They preached this ancient Greek philosophy that introduces us to mental strength and valuable thoughts. Through rationality, we find inner peace and happiness. Thus, we are more selective to have self-control and develop an anti-fragile mentality that will make us better human beings who contribute to society with more peace and prosperity. So now, I'm going to present 5 lessons from the Stoics to build an unbeatable mindset and be calm in the face of moments of tension and stress. But before I go on to the first lesson, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss out on any valuable knowledge that could change your life. 1. Embrace impermanence and cultivate detachment. Stoicism reinforces that everything in life is temporary, including life itself. This may sound a bit demotivating or even gloomy, but it's really not. It is completely liberating to take the direction we want in life, making us ignore other people's opinions, the fear of loss and failure, as well as seeing the waste in ephemeral pleasures and instant gratification. When we accept the impermanent nature of reality, we can cultivate detachment from material possessions and external circumstances. This doesn't mean that we should be indifferent to the events around us, but it is about developing a sense of inner peace and resilience that doesn't depend on external factors. When we don't become attached to our desires or expectations, we can be more understanding of each other, knowing that everyone is facing life in one way. This allows us not only to free ourselves from the prisons of our thoughts, but also prevents us from being reassured when things don't turn out the way we want, because we know that our power lies only in our actions and not in the results that happen. According to Stoicism, detachment was fundamental to living a life of virtue. This would free up space in their minds and souls to be able to fill them with actions that are under our control. Our thoughts, actions, and attitudes were what the Stoics focused on, and nothing else. The virtue of acting and thinking was 100% the responsibility of the Stoics and not the external environment, but the results were out of their hands. Their possessions and reputation, on the other hand, were to be viewed with indifference. For example, Zeno, an extremely wealthy merchant, lost all his cargo on the high seas. Instead of being sad and frustrated, Zeno took this situation with indifference because it was beyond his power. This is how Zeno created Stoicism, by practicing emotional detachment and taking situations beyond our control with indifference. We learn to separate our happiness and well-being from material things and external circumstances. We don't hold on to things outside to make us happy. Instead, we find joy and happiness within ourselves. This helps us not to be so shaken by the good and bad things that happen in life and allows us to stay calm even when things get tough. When we learn not to get too attached to what's happening outside and focus on what we can control, we can think clearly and make good decisions. No external circumstance will disturb us if we manage to free ourselves from the prison that the external world tries to put us in. With this detachment, we find an internal and practically unshakable force that will be able to give us light, maintaining an inner peace and mental clarity regardless of life's storms. By focusing on what you can control, you will discover an inexhaustible source of balance and serenity. In addition, detachment can help us to be stronger when we face challenges. It gives us the power to bounce back quickly when things go wrong. If we don't take everything personally or dwell on what has already happened, we are free to focus on the present and what we can control. This makes us more resilient, which means we can face difficulties with confidence, knowing that we are capable of adapting and growing from them. 2. Visualization. The uncertainty of the future worries us much more than the present. That's right, most of our suffering comes from our own heads, and this is especially true when it comes to the future, because our imaginations run wild and start creating a lot of hypothetical scenarios that might not actually happen. Then we dwell on things that might not even happen. We worry without knowing how things will turn out. Of course, there are times when reality matches what we expect, but most of the time the future takes us by surprise with unforeseen things that make us anxious and agonized. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that it's not the weight of tomorrow that hurts us, but the weight of today. The future in itself doesn't cause us harm, it's how we react to it in the present that determines our suffering. The anxiety we associate with the future occurs in the now, creating a cycle of negative emotions. And the curious thing is that the real future doesn't happen in the present, because when we encounter it, it has already become our present moment. The suffering we experience in relation to the future stems from our current preoccupation with it. When we worry too much about what will happen in the future, we allow this to influence our experiences in the present, which leads to anguish and torment in our minds. This natural tendency to anticipate problems is ingrained in us as a survival mechanism developed by evolution. The Stoics used the technique of anticipation, in which they deliberately thought about the worst situations that could happen. By doing this, they mentally prepared themselves for possible problems, which helped them not to be so emotionally shaken. If these things actually happened, they might happen, but it was in the vast minority of cases. This strategy helped them stay calm, showing that even in the face of difficult challenges, our inner strength remains intact. However, forethought offers more than just emotional strength. It serves as a powerful tool for assessing and reducing risks. As we look at worst-case scenarios, we can see the potential pitfalls and devise plans and situations to overcome them. This proactive approach enables us to take control of our lives and reduce the chances of unfavorable events. In addition, practicing forethought gives us the ability to face difficulties calmly and impartially. By envisioning the worst-case scenarios in advance, we prepare ourselves to deal with stones in the road without being taken by surprise. This helps us to remain calm and reasonable when we face life's most difficult moments. 3. Cultivate self-discipline. Self-discipline often sounds very scary. It reminds you of something like punishment, but in fact, self-discipline is the ability to force yourself to do things you know you should do, even when you don't want to. In other words, it's about having the power to resist the temptation to engage in activities that aren't aligned with our goals, and instead focus on what needs to be done. According to the Stoics, the only way to build inner peace and self-control is through self-discipline. It consists of postponing immediate gratification and focusing resolutely on your goals, even in situations where you encounter discomfort or adversity. If you have something to do, you do what it takes to follow through on what you've committed to. When you master your ability to resist instant gratification and stay focused on your goals, you develop the resilience and self-control necessary to continue on your journey regardless of the challenges and problems that arise along the way. The Stoics believed unwaveringly in the power of the will to overcome obstacles. The process of cultivating a resolute will involves setting well-defined goals and strongly pursuing their achievement, even when external conditions become difficult. This endless focus made him a practically unbeatable human being, able to deal with adversity with a determination beyond the ordinary. Epictetus had 3 pillars to this self-discipline. In one of them, he compared life to a banquet, advising us to approach it with moderation. If a plate is in front of us, we should eat in a balanced way. If it hasn't reached us yet, we shouldn't rush to grab it. And if it has already passed us by, we shouldn't strive to prevent its passage. However, the pinnacle of strength lies in our ability to refuse what is offered to us. This self-control takes us to a higher level. The strength to resist momentary temptation gives us the balance to maintain self-discipline, avoiding distractions and unnecessary excess. Another important fact, according to him, is to persist in the face of difficulties, because however strong and uncomfortable it may be at times, it is important to persist because this is driving the goals we have set ourselves. And Epictetus's last pillar is the star in the sky. To live a disciplined life, it is crucial to have a specific goal, that is, a star in the sky, to strive for. Without objectives, energy is often wasted, invested in short-term goals or not used at all. This mental strength to stay focused is what will give you the spark to keep going in the face of adversity, because you know what you're aiming for and you know how valuable it is. Many people may feel that life has no purpose and that achieving their dreams and ambitions seems unattainable. This lack of direction can result from the fear of failure or the huge variety of choices available in modern society, which leads to confusion and indecision. And that in itself makes us more anxious, which in the modern age is strongly attacking us. To deal with problems like this, I've left a link in the first comment to help you deal with this horrible emotion, just as the Stoics did. 4. Acceptance of the inevitable. One of the main pillars of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, recognizing and accepting what is uncontrollable. This means knowing that the actions of our family, friends, and work colleagues are not under our control. Yes, we can influence, but that never says that we have total control over. Accepting this fact frees our minds from expectations and the burden of trying to change the impossible. We can then concentrate on what really matters, our reactions and attitudes. By stopping trying to control the uncontrollable, we can direct our energy into our actions, which we do have control over. Remember that acceptance doesn't mean we're becoming passive, but rather knowing that stressing about the event won't actually change it. We are the ones who write the book of our story, accepting the lines that life places in the middle of our paper and dealing with them as best we can. Accepting that we can't control every external circumstance frees us from the futile desire to alter the inevitable. Instead of trying to stop the waves of the sea, we should focus on the best possible way to navigate it, improving our movements according to the waves. Stoicism reminds us of our connection with nature and how universal laws also influence us, but that doesn't mean we have to focus on them, but rather on what we can transform. Accepting the inevitable doesn't mean we have to give up or surrender to the events of fate. Rather, it means that we don't have to worry about what we don't have the slightest power to influence, which actually frees up space for what we can influence. This frees us from the anxiety that prevails in today's world because we take the weight that we ourselves have created off our shoulders. In this way, we also become anti-fragile in the face of the blows that life throws at us when we least expect it. Cultivating the art of accepting the inevitable requires patience and consistent practice, but it is a skill of immeasurable value. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Seneca, it is not that we have too little time to live, but that we waste too much of it. Life is a marathon, not a 100-meter race. If we have the mentality that it's long, we'll see that we have plenty of time to enjoy this gift. But for that to happen, it has to be used well. However, when we waste it through sloppiness, laziness, or simply comfort, and don't spend any of it on something meaningful, we're reminded on our deathbed that we weren't the best we could have been. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." What Seneca and Marcus Aurelius mean by these words is that we should make the best use of our time to focus on what we can be best at, rather than worrying about what we can't control, or even complaining about life's events. In other words, focus on what matters. 5. Face your fears. Imagine a child who is afraid of the dark. Many nights she is afraid to get out of bed because she believes that the dark could somehow harm her. Every time she feels afraid, she calls out to her mother. The mother comes into the room and the child feels better that night. But the fact that the mother is with the child doesn't take away its fear of the dark, it just doesn't let it feel pain. The only way for the child not to be afraid of the dark anymore is to make them realize that the dark itself doesn't do any harm. When the child finally manages to overcome this fear, he or she can take another step towards maturity. It's the same with Stoicism. In order to develop into better human beings, we need to face our fears. This is how we develop self-mastery and inner strength. This acceptance of adversity serves a purpose. It tempers your character and strengthens your resilience while illuminating a path to deeper self-awareness and inner tranquility. Instead of avoiding the fears and difficulties that come our way, the Stoics encourage us to prepare and face them, because that is where our growth lies. As Marcus Aurelius said, the obstacle is the way. Facing obstacles eye to eye not only makes us braver, but also sheds light on the path of life, making us more self-aware of the challenges we will face and stronger in the face of them. This will bring us inner peace and mastery of our emotions. Each stone on the path becomes a source of knowledge, making our souls stronger for the next obstacle that will come our way. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He realized that the imagination of human beings could be very destructive because most people suffer thinking of the worst possible scenario. Although Stoicism prepares for the worst, it doesn't mean that you should think about the worst, because that would only bring suffering. Stoic philosophy challenges our minds to face fears instead of running away from them. Facing fear straight in the eye diminishes its hold on us. This confrontation not only makes us braver, but also reveals the illusion behind many fears, allowing us to move forward with courage. Recognizing that a bleak future is conceivable does not mean that it is inevitable. By adopting this courageous perspective, we free ourselves from the clutches of fear and move forward with determination. As Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." This doesn't mean that feeling fear makes you weaker, but that facing it makes you braver. The Stoics didn't say that courage is the absence of fear, but rather that acting even in fear is what courage is all about. The Stoics emphasize that the value of facing your fears is immeasurable. Once you face it, you evolve, becoming stronger, anti-fragile, and developing self-awareness. Facing your fears is the only way to overcome them. And since you've come this far, here's one more secret: gratitude. We often focus our attention on what we lack, or the obstacles that lie ahead, which casts an air of dissatisfaction over us. However, by embracing gratitude, we gain the power to change our perspective and find comfort in what we already have. Gratitude is practically a mantra of Stoic philosophy, conveying the wisdom of valuing our gifts that we already possess, rather than just wishing for what we don't have. For the Stoics, gratitude was not just a virtue, but a compass that guided us towards a virtuous life. They argued that our attention should be firmly fixed on what is under our control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes. By contrast, our surroundings, such as our possessions, reputation, and even our very existence, should be regarded with Stoic indifference. Gratitude, in essence, directs our focus from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude encourages us to appreciate the good things in our lives, whether they are big or small and simple. It could be something as simple as a warm bed to sleep in, food on the plate every day, or even a fan to help withstand the heat on hot days. It also promotes compassion and empathy towards others, strengthening our bonds with people. Practicing gratitude has an incredible power, capable of making our lives happier and more fulfilling. Through gratitude, we shift our focus from feelings of lack to appreciating what we have. This change can reduce stress and anxiety, increase our well-being, improve our relationships, and make us more resilient in the face of life's challenges. This resilience is something that influences our character in a way that nothing else can stop. We can become armored in the face of life's adversities, and to achieve this, we're going to see how these simple Stoics words will help you through life's most heavy situations. Click on the video and watch it now.